What's up, BBN? Welcome back to the Buckets and the Bluegrass podcast, your dedicated Kentucky women's basketball pod presented by Cats Coverage. I'm your host, Tanin Smith, and I'm very excited to introduce our guest today. We are joined by Talia Goodman. She covers women's college basketball for On3 and has been doing a great job with her coverage this year. So if you want to keep up with women's college basketball as a whole, Talia is great at discussing all of it on her Twitter page. Talia, thank you for joining the pod today.
Thanks so much for having me on. Excited to talk some Kentucky with you.
Yeah, I'm really excited and just diving straight into it. Talking a lot about the women's basketball team today. We're going to get your opinion on the team, kind of hear your thoughts on the program's trajectory as a whole. We'll also discuss Kentucky's incoming five-star recruit, kind of talk about how Kentucky may look to replace All-American point guard Georgia Amore after this season, talk about some other things along the way. So jumping into it, obviously Kentucky fans are very happy with the start of the Kenny Brooks era so far. But from a national media standpoint, what are your thoughts on this Kentucky team so far this season and the job that Kenny Brooks has done?
Yeah, I mean, I think you can't ask for much better in year one, right? Your top 15 consensus, right? Like that's where you're at right now. I think potential for top 10 looking a little bit more unlikely after that Texas A&M game, but there's the potential to get back up there. I think Kenny Brooks has done a phenomenal job of rounding up players from his time at Virginia Tech, of course, which was huge, but then also getting some kind of under the radar players that have made a real impact on this team. So I've been really impressed with how cohesive it's been so far. You really only have that one bad loss on your record. And being in the SEC, plenty of opportunity to make up for that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's been awesome to see how he constructed that roster. And, I've heard plenty of people say like he didn't go for the best players in the portal per se. I mean, some of them were really good, but, arguably the two best players he pulled from the portal, Amore and Strack, just came with him from Virginia Tech. So, getting a player like Amelia Hassett out of the JUCO ranks is just kind of crazy to, get a talent like that who's immediately made an impact. And even through a couple of major injuries as well, we had two potential starters go down in the preseason. And so for them to have still had this success up to this point has been pretty awesome to see. So it was an immediate turnaround for the program going from the previous staff and team to this new one. So what are the biggest differences that you can see from what was happening before Brooks got here compared to now and how fast the turnaround was?
I think more than anything, it's like the hope that this franchise that this program has right now, right? Like it was down for a few years before and everyone was losing hope in the trajectory of this team. And then Kenny Brooks comes in and it's his personality is part of it, what he's been able to do to garner attention. The fact that you're able to bring an All-American with you certainly helps. You have a star on your team immediately, and sucks that she's only here for a year, but good to have her there for sure. And then I just think it's what he's been able to do with what he's been handed, right? Because like you said, I don't even see them as two potential starters. I think that those are two starters. Those are two women who would have started on this team and they both go down. So then it's like, oh, like, are they really going to be that good? Are they really top 25? And I have to admit, I didn't have them in the top 25 to start the season. And that was a big part of it. I was like, I was looking at the roster and I was like, who's really going to step up? Right. But boy, like they really have. Like Clara Strack is someone who was good last year, but you don't expect to have a season like this. And so she's probably the kid I've been most impressed with this year.
Right. And then you bring someone like Tiani Key, who just didn't have very much opportunity at UNC, and now she's out there looking like the best player on the floor sometimes, and Amelia Hassett, like we mentioned before. So, yeah, I mean, it's been really awesome to see those players step up. I think those are the two players that ended up starting in place of who was out, because we lost Dominika Parova, the Oregon State transfer, who would have started, and then Jordan Obi would have started as well. So, those two players with Hassett and Key stepping up has been huge for Kentucky. And that's how you know that, Kenny's just got an eye for talent. You go get a girl from UNC with Tiani Key, who averaged 2 points per game last year, and she comes in and immediately does what she does. And then Amelia does what she does. So the heart and soul of this Kentucky team is Georgia Amore, and she's an All-American point guard. She's been one of the best players in all of college basketball for most of her career at Virginia Tech with Kenny Brooks. And she's in her final year of eligibility, and her chemistry with Kenny Brooks, her ability to be an extension of him on the floor, and just her ability to score and play make. How do you anticipate Kentucky will replace Georgia after this season? Because there's not really a replacement on the roster currently, and there aren't any incoming freshmen that play the position. So I'm assuming the assumption would be that they're just going to get somebody from the portal.
Yeah, I think that's what you got to do. You got to get a player with, I would say 2 years of eligibility left would be ideal, right? So that Madden Greenway, who we'll talk about later, doesn't have to start in her freshman year potentially. But yeah, I think you have to get a vet, somewhat of a vet onto this team to do. They're not going to be able to do what Georgia does, very likely. I don't foresee them getting another superstar point guard this offseason, but maybe they do. Maybe I'm wrong, and we'll see who ends up entering, and we can have a better conversation about it then. But I think you do have to dig into the portal, right? Because you don't have anyone coming in who can fill those shoes quite yet. You don't have anyone on the roster who can fill those shoes, I would say. So yeah, you got to go to the portal, which in this day and age isn't too hard. Like you can go in there and find whatever you need for the most part. And Kenny Brooks, another thing that he's done a great job at is recruiting players to come to Lexington. And so I don't think he'll have too much of a problem finding someone to come in and get the job done.
Yeah, I mean, if I was a portal point guard and I saw how much usage a player like Georgia Amore gets, and I see what Kenny Brooks did with her, it's not going to take too much convincing, I would assume.
But do you really want to follow that up? You want to come and follow the take over the shoes of Georgia Amore? I don't know.
100%. Yeah, that's definitely not easy shoes to fill. But so we'll see. I mean, I'm optimistic. I know I trust Kenny completely to get the right person in there to kind of take over. Now I know you were at the Kentucky versus Louisville game earlier in the season. So like, what were your impressions of the crowd and the atmosphere? And then what did you think of the new and improved historical Memorial Coliseum? This is the first year after the renovations.
I loved it. I'd never been to begin with. The only time I'd ever been to Lexington before was with my dad for a men's, actually, a Louisville, Kentucky game when I was probably 13. So I hadn't been back since. I went and I wasn't honestly, I don't even think I knew it wasn't in Rupp. Like, I don't think I knew that to begin. I don't know. But I go in, I was really impressed. Like, they were able to pack the place up, which I think is the pro of having a smaller arena like that. Like, it's a way better home court advantage, in my opinion. And it's similar to kind of like in NC State where I went this year, like that kind of feel where it's just everything so close and so loud. But yeah, no, I thought the environment was great. The student section was pretty good there. Obviously, it was a big rivalry game, so I don't know. I'll see what it looks like when I head up this Thursday if it looks similarly. But yeah, no, I was super impressed with it.
Yeah, I think kind of at the beginning of the year, the attendance maybe wasn't super crazy just because of kind of the hangover from the previous administration, how bad they were. So kind of getting the interest back up in the program maybe took a little bit. But I think that Louisville game, the atmosphere in there was incredible. I mean, I had a blast being at that game. It was so loud and everybody was really locked in. And I feel like since that game, the attendance has just been better. I feel like that was really all they needed to get locked back in. So it's been awesome to be in there and be in that environment. And hopefully we can get that win on Thursday and have another good environment for you to be in. But moving on, Kentucky has an incoming 5-star wing in Kaylin Carroll, who just got named a McDonald's All-American. So what can you say about Kentucky maybe getting in Carroll, and would you anticipate her being a starter immediately?
I don't know about immediate. I think she's a very, very talented player who received a lot of interest from very high-level programs. And so I think it was impressive that Kenny was able to come in and get her in year one, right, pretty soon after arriving here. But yeah, no, I think that's what stands out to me. Like, you're not, or at least I wasn't expecting him to come in and immediately be able to land like 5 stars or whatever, like really top level recruits. And I think it's just a testament to the coaching staff that he built too. Like, I think the coaching staff he has there does a really, really good job of getting players, as we've seen, whether it's transfers or freshmen. So I think her, and then I'm sure we'll talk about Madden, but I'll go ahead because she was the first like really big 2026 recruit to come off the board, right? And I spent a lot of time talking to her, and essentially, like, she was going to take more time with her recruitment. She wasn't planning to commit this early on, but she took a visit to Kentucky. And immediately after, basically, it was like, I'm ready. And her mom was like, no, sleep on it. Like, see if you feel this way in the morning, right? So she sleeps on it, and she's like, no, I want to be a Wildcat. Like, this is for me. And I think that's just a testament to what they've been able to build, that you're getting like elite level 2026 recruits like this early on, right? So I've been very impressed with what they've been able to do. And I think she will grow into be a solid Georgia Amore replacement. They're not the same player by any means. One of the best scorers in the country right now at the high school level. So I've been very impressed with what they've done.
Yeah, I mean, that was the next big talking point, was just discussing Madden Greenway, and like you said, just landing her this early in the cycle. I was surprised when that happened. I was like, I mean, you don't usually see a full 2 calendar years before they come get on campus, they are committed to the school, especially a player as good as her. So yeah, I mean, I have written down right here that I feel like she is the obvious eventual Georgia Amore replacement. So like you said, maybe find someone in the portal with a couple years of eligibility to kind of be the bridge point guard in between Georgia and Madden, because it does look like that's the plan for her. So, and even just like with Kaylin Carroll, if she's not a starter next year, just the idea of having a 5-star McDonald's All-American coming off the bench at Kentucky after the, some of the crazy stuff the program's been through lately, the fact that we're just seeing an immediate impulse of talent in that way.
And we'll see, like, maybe she will start. We'll have to see how the roster kind of shakes out. I feel like right now it's too early to maybe say if she, you got to look at what that, because everything changes, right? You don't know who will enter the portal. You don't know who will come in. It's so hard to predict for next year, let alone like a month from now, right? Like what it'll look like, but with injuries and such. But yeah, no, like you said, I think whether she's starting or she's coming off the bench, she'll make an impact for sure. And it certainly looks good that he was able to land her in year one.
Yeah, super exciting things on the recruiting front for Kentucky so far, and I fully anticipate Kenny Brooks will continue it. It looks like the 2025 cycle is probably done, and you probably rely a little bit more on because I don't know if there's really anybody else we could even go after at this point. But we have a lot of freshmen on the roster right now, like Lexi Blue and Tana Becker, and players like that who hopefully will be ready to contribute next season. Now, kind of zooming out just a little bit, the SEC as a whole is arguably the best overall conference in all of women's college basketball. We obviously know how good South Carolina and LSU are, but how do you feel about the SEC in general, and maybe where Kentucky holds up as far as some of the better teams in the conference go?
There is no argument, and I've been saying it all year. There's no argument. The SEC is the best conference. It is. The Big Ten is close by, but they're not reaching what the SEC is right now. The SEC is so dominant and so competitive, as seen by Texas A&M, who lost to Texas A&M CC in the first game of the year, coming in and upsetting all of these, top 25 level teams. Like it's just, there's so much parity more in the SEC than I would say. It's the deepest league in the country right now. And so it's the most fun to watch as well. So it's been fun to see. I'm sure Kentucky fans didn't have fun when they were on the other end of it, but but yeah, no, I think Kentucky stacks up pretty well. I'd have to look and count, but off the top of my head, obviously South Carolina, LSU are up there. Texas is there right now ahead of Kentucky. I'm looking now. Yeah, South Carolina, LSU, Texas.
Tennessee's even been a lot better this year too.
They've been better for sure. Kentucky's got the edge right now. Oklahoma coming in. Oklahoma's I would say like Kentucky is going to sit around like that number 5-ish.
Right. And I mean, when you're in a stacked conference like that after, especially the season we had last year, which was just so bad and so hard to watch, just to go from the bottom to, that second tier of the conference in the blink of an eye, it's just really exciting.
And especially when, at least 10 teams are going to make the tournament from the SEC, I would say.
Right.
10, so.
Right. And I love the parallels between like both women's college basketball and men's college basketball with the SEC. It's like across the board, both of those conferences are like without question the strongest in the country. So SEC fans are eating good with college basketball this season. So then zooming out a little bit more to women's college basketball as a whole, outside of like South Carolina and LSU, who do you personally believe is the best team in the country that isn't in the SEC?
Notre Dame. I honestly, so UCLA right now is the number 1 team in the country, and they deserve to be there right now for sure. I think Notre Dame is the team with the best chance of winning it all, is what I would say, other than South Carolina. So if we're not talking SEC, I think South Carolina is number 1 for that, and then I'd probably go Notre Dame next, just because they were dealing with so many injury problems, right? And now those are resolved for the most part. The only 2 losses they have were not in the country, and while they were dealing with those injuries. And they have Hannah Hidalgo. You have someone like Hannah Hidalgo, like she's just unstoppable. She's unstoppable. She's so much fun. And you have Olivia Miles too. Like it's just one of the best backcourts in the country. It's right. So they're certainly up there. I would say, I'm trying to think if we're not thinking SEC, because I was going to say Texas potentially, but no. Yeah, no, I think it's USC is there too for sure. I think, there are certainly some things that they still have to work out before they get to March, but there's definitely the potential for them to win it all and make it really far. Yeah, those are kind of my contenders are, I would say, UCLA, Notre Dame, South Carolina, and USC.
Okay. That's a nice.
I'll throw UConn in there. I need to see a little more, but I'll throw.
Okay, okay. And then full disclosure, like you can be as mean as you want here. If Kentucky, maybe I'm being delusional. Maybe I'm feeding into my own biases and delusion here. If Kentucky had Jordan Obi and Dom Parova, would they have a chance to win it all?
No.
Okay.
No, they wouldn't. They would. I think right now my kind of ceiling for them probably Sweet 16, to be honest.
Okay, ceiling.
Probably like right now at
I
this
understand. No, I
moment,
understand.
I'm seeing
I'm as biased as it gets, so I understand.
I don't it's so stacked, and obviously it all depends who they're going up against. They could
Right.
get the easy end of the stick there for sure.
Right.
But, like, I see them as a Sweet 16 level team right now, and I think with those 2, potentially definitely Elite 8, maybe Final 4, maybe. Like,
Okay.
I don't think I don't yeah.
I can take that. I mean, that's to go from what we were dealing with before to a
Yeah.
potential Final Four contender when healthy. I can take it. Maybe. Okay. I mean, I'm going to take what I can get here. I will
I have
take
to
that.
see what they look like. They hadn't played a game on the court yet for Kentucky, so
Right.
hard to
Nope.
say.
Understandable. I get it. So kind of looking at Kentucky as the last little bit of, what we'll talk about with the Wildcats, looking at the future of the players that are currently on the roster, specifically like Clara Strack, because when I watch Clara Strack, I mean, she's supposed to be a freshman right now. She reclassed, went to Virginia Tech, played a little bit behind a superstar in Elizabeth Kitley last year. So she didn't really get to, play too much as a starter, but when she did, she was good. And then now in her first real opportunity to start, I mean, Clara Strack has looked like one of the better bigs in the conference. Because what I see with her is like, if she continues to, with how young she is, with how much longer she has in college, I see a potential national player of the year in the future, or at least a SEC player of the year in the future. Do you see that with someone like Clara Strack? And maybe are there any other players on Kentucky you could see developing into some really good players?
I think it certainly could happen. I think for her, it's just wanting to see maybe a little more consistency. I think she has huge performances against really good teams, but there are certain games where she just hasn't necessarily showed up, like maybe that North Carolina game that they lost, or I'm trying to think like Mississippi State, she was good, not great, right? Like there's a few games where you'd like to see more out of her and you think she should be performing better than she is. So she certainly has the talent to be considered at that level. I think she needs another year under her belt maybe to get there. I'm trying to think if there's anyone else that I'm loving. I think she's the only one at that level that's
Okay.
currently on roster at that level. Like there's a lot of really solid players. Like I'm looking now. There's a lot of really solid, good pieces on this team, but no one who's like superstar level or superstar potential other than her.
Right. I'm a big Lexi Blue truther. I think that once she gets some development, I mean, she's just a tall, long guard, and she's already shown that she can knock down some threes. So Lexi Blue's one that I'm buying stock in early for sure.
I don't know if I've seen enough from her yet.
Yeah.
I don't know if
Oh,
I've
it's
seen
complete. It's complete. Speculation on my part, but just from what I've seen,
Yeah.
it's exciting.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so and then for this final little bit of our talk here today, could you maybe name your top 3 National Player of the Year candidates in college women's basketball right now?
I can, yeah. Number 1 right now, I'm still sticking with Hannah Hidalgo. I know the trend is Lauren Betts at number 1 right now, and she's very close behind at number 2, but Hannah Hidalgo is just so versatile. She changes. If we saw in Notre Dame's game against Clemson that they barely won. Without Hannah Hidalgo, this is not a team that really has much potential at all, right? Like you need her on the court. And when she's on the court, she makes all the difference. Not only that, but like her emotion on the court, like her intensity, she puts everything into it, every single play. I was there for their big win against UConn, and immediately 2 minutes in, I was like, yeah, National Player of the Year. Yeah. So she's my number 1. Then I'll go Lauren Betts because of what UCLA has done so far and how big of a role she's played in that, right? And then number 3 is one that I just put out a piece on today because no one's talking about her, and I think she should seriously be considered, is Tania Latson from Florida State. And I know they aren't, a championship contender by any means, but they're a tournament team for sure. And she does everything. People, and I talked to Florida State's head coach the other day. She's not just a scorer, but she does lead the country in scoring. She does, and she's very, very efficient. She also has a strong presence defensively, is averaging more than 4 rebounds, I think more than 4 assists too, a couple steals, something like she has a crazy stat line pretty much every game. She put up a 40 piece. She had a triple double. She had her first double double this year, which is crazy. I thought she'd had many of them, but like just the impact that she has on this team can't be overstated. Like this Florida State team has the potential, like they were kind of edging towards, bubble territory-ish, and then she comes in and gets that game winner against North Carolina, and suddenly like everyone's talking about her now, and they should have been talking about her from the beginning.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, women's college basketball is in such a good place right now. The sport is growing, and you're doing a great job of helping grow the sport as well and contribute to that. So it's been really awesome to see. I know this is the first year that I've been able to be a part of it, and just be able to go to the UK women's games and stuff. And I've had a blast with that. And, myself learning more about everything and kind of, getting my knowledge up so I can say that I know ball. So yeah, like I said, you've done a great job with that stuff. So do you have anything you want to plug, like where people can find you and follow with your coverage?
First, I'm asking you a question. I want to hear your take on Kentucky's tournament outlook, and you're not biased. I want to hear no bias here. I want to hear your genuine take.
Okay. If Georgia Amore and Clara Strack are playing at their best each game of the tournament, and then everyone else is just doing their job, Elite Eight.
All right. No, I can see it. I don't I think it's a possibility for sure.
I mean, it's the only team that other than the teams we've played, that I've been able to see in person, that I've been like right there watching. And just, I mean, Georgia, like from what my knowledge of basketball, if you have a great point guard, if you have an elite point guard, you can go anywhere. You can do anything. So I want
to see her shoot the ball better. Like in past years, she shot the crap out of it. I'm like, what? She's a little inconsistent there now. So I want to see her get a shot back, and then maybe I can get on with your Elite Eight take.
Okay. Well, Kenny Brooks has said a couple times, because people have asked him and, the post-game pressers and stuff, what's up with Georgia, basically. Like, why is she not scoring like she used to? And he's like, she's just having to facilitate the offense a little bit more. She's having to play make more. And, he keeps promising that three is going to start falling at a better clip. So
maybe I'll see it Thursday. But yeah, I'll plug my Twitter real quick and I'll let you go. My Twitter is Talia Goodman WBB.
Awesome. Yeah, everybody follow Talia on Twitter. Like I said, does a great job with her women's basketball coverage. Pops up on my feed all the time, and I can, see what's going on around the country. So you guys make sure to follow her on there and tune into that. And sorry it's been so long since the last episode of Buckets in the Bluegrass. Life has been crazy. We had a snowstorm here in Kentucky, a couple weeks ago, and so kind of just dealing with all that and the holidays. But hopefully we'll get back to being pretty consistent here. But Talia, thank you again for coming on. It's been awesome.
For sure. Thanks so much for having me on.
No problem. Go Cats.